I've been having a lot of conversations with my clients over the last couple of weeks that have really themed around what I am calling wounds of receiving, wounds of receiving. And so this is places in which we still have some limiting beliefs, some internalizing of how we made it make sense as a child when we were inside of more learned helplessness, more stepping into whatever we had to do to make it work in terms of overcompensating by leaning into these survival skills, right? Which served us at the time. And now, later in life, when our externals have changed and we want to step into a deeper sense of freedom, creation energy that comes from a reclaiming and rebalancing of our nervous system, walking that bridge, practice makes progress on this healing, active phase of transformation as we're starting to shift one step at a time from survival mode into safety. This is where we are able to start garnering a deeper sense of internal steadiness, a detachment that leads to a secure relationship style with ourself. And as I see some of my clients coming into this, they're speaking of it in very similar language as to what I'm saying right now, which is recognizing I'm not pulled into these gravitational forces of external chaos. And even when I can recognize some dense energies or some external chaos or, sense of a lot of movement outside of myself, I am not being as impacted by it as I would have in the past. I have something that is my own deeper roots holding down shop for me and allowing me to experience an internal peace that is detached from external situations. And here is where we start to see creation energy happen. And when we start to feel resonance, when we start to feel period, right? Because when you're in survival mode, a lot of times what is happening is we dissociate, we disembody, we're out of touch with feelings because we start to use strategy, analysis, which is not really coming from feelings. That's not coming from resonance or gravitational pull, right? This is coming from strategizing, calculating, maneuvering, and that is typically coming from what we have learned by history, what we have in our memory bank from this lifetime. That is where those learned survival skills are coming from. And we can get to a place in our life where we'd like to set that down. And so, as we arrive at this place of let it breathe. I can breathe. I'm noticing this a lot with people, right? When we cross that bridge, there's a breath. And it is our whole being taking a sigh, taking a breath, our whole body taking a breath. And sometimes this is a bubbling up or a releasing of energy that has been stored and just tense inside of our muscles, inside of our fascia. So when we take that first breath, as we've walked over that bridge and we finally start to feel a little bit of steady ground underneath our feet, people can experience a little bit more sense of surprise in what their body is, how they're starting to hear their body speaking, right? Because you've been disconnected from living in your body in a symbiotic, harmonious way. So when you first start to come hand in hand and arrive back inside of embodiment, it's going to feel it's going to feel a little uncomfortable, as that residue is what I'll call it for people, because we need to not think of it in terms of like, oh my goodness, something is a problem here. I thought I was healing and now I'm backsliding. No, this is just progress, or excuse me, practice makes progress, not practice makes perfection. And I can take that phrase and put it into this active phase of healing, as there's going to be a period of time. It's not a light switch, it's more of a dimmer and a spectrum. We don't go from survival mode off on into I'm completely feeling integrated and healed. It is, we're going to be walking side by side, hand in hand, in tandem for a minute with both of the modes, both of these modes kind of on and off at the same time, if that makes sense. And so what I'm noticing is, as people are on this transformative journeying, they're noticing a lot of wounds of receiving rising up. And this looks like we desire to receive love. We desire to be fully seen and held in this light, in a depth of the gifts of love, of connection. We want this. We desire it. We deserve it. And yet, we're in the in-between zone. So we notice when we start to call in these beautiful relationships that have a depth of capacity in some ways unfamiliar with the first half of our life journeying, and what we were familiar with from nuclear family dynamics. We want that, and yet it ruffles the feathers a little bit. It can directly kind of shine a light on any shadowy areas that have been still holding some wounds around receiving. And so wounds around receiving look like when I am receiving gifts, and that can include, it's not just material, right? It's words of affirmation. It's just a depth of love through a variety of what those resources look like, of somebody holding space, of somebody seeing us. Yes, we can get a little bit uncomfortable with it. And what I hear from people in that is, I don't understand why. And I feel like there's an expectation of me when I'm receiving this gift. And then that expectation makes me feel uncomfortable and threatens my nervous system and my limiting beliefs from childhood of, what does it mean? What does it mean? And what hidden agendas or energetic weight am I now putting onto my shoulders when I receive this? If we have history of experiencing receipt of love that feels like it comes with hidden strings, that can be in its own regard a threat to our nervous system. That's not helpful energy in regard to this internal incoherence that is creating a wall, preventing us from being able to fully receive what it is we'd like to call into our lives, which is also what we deserve, this depth of love. And so we're seeing a lot of healing happening on where are these wounds of receiving coming from. And a lot of times it is around these unmet needs from childhood, these pockets where we felt we needed love, we needed support, we needed to be held. And I've mentioned this before, this notion of pain versus safety. And this is often where I'm seeing it happen is these experiences of pain. We have so many different experiences of pain on the natural journey of the human condition. And that is really so much more bearable and non scarring when we are held with love and we feel connection and oneness energy during or shortly after that experience of the experience of pain. And this is where we see pain can be experienced while feeling safe, right? Pain doesn't mean we don't feel safe. What happens is these childhood wounds that keep us in this energy of having a wound of receiving, of not trusting or feeling comfortable with being in the energy of receiving a deep love and connection, is coming from the times where we've experienced pain without feeling oneness, pain without feeling seen, pain without feeling held. And that then triggers the nervous system to register that not as just pain, but as I am not safe, I am in danger. And when we were a kid, the resilience, the survival skill, which we hold with love and honoring because it happens for a reason and it serves us at the time. It is connected to resilience, right? And so, what happens when we garner that resilience and those survival skills is the child's mind does what it needs to do to make it make sense. Make it make sense. So, that can sound like when we have an unmet need, when we experience pain and we don't have the support, it can create an internalized belief of, I don't need it. It's fine that I don't have this support. I don't need it. I don't need support. Yes. I don't need, I'm smiling because like I feel like spirit is showing me my own little ways in which I've had some pockets of hyper dependence myself, where and I think I've talked about that in other recordings as well, where it can feel vulnerable to get to a place where you say, you know what? I do need support. I do need love. And I am safe enough and comfortable enough. And I've arrived home enough inside of myself. And I've done this deep level of reparenting of the inner child to come into an inner union. And that is the foundational energy that puts us in a place where we now can say, I do need support. I do need love. I do deserve all those things. And hmm, those are not weaknesses. To say that, that doesn't need to make us feel as vulnerable as it once did when we were in the wounded energy, when we didn't trust that we would receive the love and support we needed. So we made it make sense by the child's mind convincing us of, well, I don't need it. So it's okay that I'm not receiving it. Just because it's something that you didn't receive doesn't mean it wasn't something that you needed and that you deserved, right? So I'm seeing this depth of healing happening as we're walking hand in hand with our inner child to the other side. And when we do that look back and the inner child with the survival skills starts to move from the driver's seat into the back seat of the vehicle, and this more healed version is taking the wheel, and we start to feel these, we turn the turn signal on, and that inner child who is used to functioning from a place of hypervigilance, hyper independence, these survival tactics that we've learned that can kick up when we're about to receive something, right? Don't trust it, don't let it in. Um, we do not need to view the little voice of that inner child trying to peep up and do a little bit of backseat driving as a problem. We don't need to open the car door at 60 miles per hour and try to shove that voice out of the car. We're gonna take care of that part of ourselves. This is the journey of walking hand in hand and coming into an inner union where we treat it with love and honor and compassion, because that voice served us. That voice was necessary. It came forward for a reason when we were a kid. And so it's not necessary now. And it would be a problem if it continued to be in the driver's seat, but we can, with gentle emotional safety and validation, look back at our own voice of that fear of that inner child to say, like, hey, I totally see why you're starting to feel that way. And we're all right. I got you. I got you. Okay. And then with the space holding and the compassion and the love, that gentle leadership is what is required for that voice to settle down. And then 2 minutes later, we look back and that inner child is taking a nap in the back seat now that it feels like it can relax because there's something else on board here of this oversoul energy that's kind of integrated. And now we don't need to hold down the fort on our own like this. We don't feel alone anymore because this grown version of ourselves has developed a capacity beyond what we had as these limited options from a learned helplessness when we were a little kid. And this is the path toward healing these wounds of receiving. So when we do start to call in more and more of this beautiful, magnetized depth of connection and love energy that's not based on attachment wounds, that's not based on transactional dynamics, and there are no strings attached. It doesn't need to be that way, because when you're in this depth of inner union, and those are the type of relationships that you're drawing in, there is no difference between the amount of love that is flowing between a depth of genuine harmony in the person who seems to be giving a gift versus the person who is deeply, truly receiving the gift. The energy of love is an equal match between the giver and the receiver when it comes to that type of inner harmony and the flow that happens when two people are able to function from a place of secure attachment in their relationships with themselves. It is, I guess the thing I can say there is just like it is oneness. The illusions of separation just melt away, and so there are no strings attached in that dynamic.